if you started doing your long runs, or even if you're not doing long runs, you just need to carry your hydration and things like that, it might be that a belt is not for you. I found that if it's cold, I'm fine going with just a belt or with whatever I have in my pocket. But as I started training during the summer month, I realized that I needed a hydration vest, and I spent a long time researching hydration vests, and the key issue I found was that many of them were geared for trail running, so where you need to have, quite a bit of liquid on you. You need to have all that nutrition because you need to be eating, you go for hours, you need to have a first aid kit, etc. So I really struggled to find what would be the smallest hydration vest that I have, but also that works for what I need. And I did quite a bit of research. There are various brands that do that. Any running shop you will find that. If you want to go super cute, you could even go to a Lululemon one. I eventually ended up getting this one from Salomon. Salomon is the go-to brand when it comes to trail running. This is called the Agile 2. 2 refers actually to the capacity. So whenever you're looking at a running vest, a lot of the time you will have a reference to, like, the numbers, especially in Salomon, refer to what is the capacity in liters. So effectively, if you were to add up how much hydration you can have, or if you have something in here and the pockets, the volume of these pockets, you should be able to fit 2 liters worth of content in them. Now, I went for this one simply because I don't necessarily think of it as an essential for race, because if you're doing a specific race and it's well organized, you will have some hydration stations. There are some athletes who still prefer to have their own hydration on them, but for me, the thing is, not every run is a race, which means that most of the time, as I'm preparing for my half marathon, I'm gonna be doing an hour-and-a-half run or a 2-hour run, and I will have to rely on my own devices for hydration. So this one I thought was relatively small, and it fits my frame. Because the other thing you need to keep in mind is that some hydration vests come in sizes, in which case you have to know what is your waist size and things like that and measure. But you also have to see whether they do men and women, and that is mostly relevant in terms of what is your breast size, because you don't want to be too squished. It can be super uncomfortable. This one specifically, because it's super small, doesn't come in various sizes, but if I were to take a more technical one, I would take the one that comes with the smallest size possible. The other thing is that this had some long straps, and having tried it at home, I realized I'm never going to need to use all those straps, and also I found them very annoying. So what I did is that I took some of the longest bits and I simply cut them, and then I burned them the end with a lighter, because I felt that having these things dangle just is not helpful, and I don't plan on actually reselling this, so it works for me. There are some bits where I thought maybe I'm not sure yet about whether I'm gonna need this or not, so I still left a little bit of length, and I've been running with this. I think I used it 4 or 5 times, so eventually I will probably cut it even shorter, but that's the end where I cut it and I burned it. And then I just kind of roll this like that, because I'm like, it's so irritating to have that around. Like, I see people running and they have the straps dangling, but for me that just irritates me, so I just shove them in here. So let me now show you what are the pockets and what you have in the features, and then how I actually packed mine. So the first feature is visibility. As you start running, especially if you're running outside, visibility equals safety. You want to be as visible as possible. There are some features, like for example, you could have some vests that have quite a bit of reflective paneling. In this one, it's only these small bits of reflective paneling. Obviously, if you run at night or very early in the morning, or you're in a sad country like me in the UK, where during the autumn and winter it's dark, simply you don't see the sun, visibility matters. For me, I don't plan on doing very long runs in the dark. I really want to be in the sun, but still I have that little bit of visibility. You might need to have a little bit more, or you might need to have visibility elsewhere on your outfit. This bit also is quite reflective. Now, The material is a mesh material that is quite breathable. I think that this is very important because I want this for hot weather. Usually I still sweat when it's cold, but I feel like I only need one bottle or of something when it's cold. So for hot weather, I want this to be breathable. This is an entry level from Salomon, so actually they have other ones that are more expensive, that are made of an even more luxurious type of material. I was fine with the fact that this is the relatively entry level and kind of basic, because, you know, I think things need to be proportionate to the use that you make of them. Similarly to my review of the watch that I have been using, yes, there are some Garmin watches that have all kinds of crazy features that I would love to have, but then I don't want to pay £200 more just for these features, and I'm not that hardcore yet. So I think the spending and what features you look for should be proportional with how much use you're gonna make. So that's the reflective material, that's the mesh, and you have a bit of an island here. Now when it comes to the pockets and the compartments that you have, from a symmetry point of view, you have this compartment here, which is a mesh compartment, and it has a little loop that holds your bottle. Now this vest specifically comes with these two bottles. Now if you look at the price of the bottles separately, just to buy them from Salomon, that's relatively expensive. So actually I found that because you get these with the vest, it was a very good deal. I bought the cheapest one I could find, and I mean, you could go and splurge a little bit more, but I just thought, you know, because it comes with the bottle, that actually is a very good price point. This loop is meant to hold these bottles like that. These are soft flasks, so as you drink from them, they just flatten out. It holds them because as you're running and as you're drinking from this, if you didn't have something to hold it, it will just go down. Now the flasks that you have here are 500 milliliter flasks. You could also buy the 250 milliliters. I do have those for when I go for a smaller run or something like that, and I have tried those too. Now this loop is made for the 500 milliliter flask, so if you use the smaller one, it has a smaller opening. You just take a double loop to secure it. These flasks are actually have this valve where you need to bite it for the liquid to come up if you want to suck it. Now it's quite secure. I've run with it a few times and it doesn't really fail as of yet, so it's actually a very good mechanism. You can also have change this top to have something that is like a straw that would still have a valve or not, but I'm fine actually with that basic entry thing. So you have this pocket on both sides, and then you have another pocket in front of each of these meshes, so you can have more stuff in it, and that's also on both sides. And then on one side of the vest you have a zippered pocket, and that's where which side? Yeah, it's on this side. You have a zippered pocket, and then in the back you have this thing, which is not necessarily a pocket, it's just a compartment. So it's actually open on both ways, it doesn't have a zip, and it also has this little hook in here. So that's all what you have. Now if you were to count the 500 and 500, that's 1 liter, all the space everywhere else would be your remaining liters, so that this is actually a 2 liter type of jacket of vest. This bit is adjustable. Now you have actually 4 hooks in here, and the reasoning for that is that when you start and your bottles are full, you can have a certain shape and you want to keep this always snug. So maybe when you started running at the start of your long run, everything was full and you had maybe a shape that looked like that. That's how basically you get to customize it. But then this thing actually got a bit more empty, so you needed to move it elsewhere. And so this allows you through your run to just adjust the fit so that it's always snug but also always comfortable for you. Like for instance, I went on a run, I used this half and I didn't use this one, right? In the other Salomon ones, these straps are typically They look like wires, they're very thin. This one is actually quite thick and it's doubled, so it's not the same mechanism, but it still works. It's these claws work. I do find that you have to do a bit of adjusting just to know exactly what is the setting that works for you, especially given how full your bottles are. Now, if you have these bottles and you fill them, make sure that you actually suck the air out, because when you're running sometimes it can be sloshy. But you can see this one is very full, but it's not sloshing around because there is no air in it. Like, I've actually filled it all the way to the top. So this pocket, typically in this one I have water, simple water. In this one I have my carbs, so this is my nutrition. So I personally use Morton hydrogel, so I just prepare the mixture, and this is my nutrition that I have in here. So for instance, because the last run that I went for, it wasn't as hot as before, I was okay with just having my nutrition and not having water. But I did go on another run last week, and it was scorching hot, and I ran out of my water but not of my hydration, my nutrition. So it kind of depends. You might want to go with just water, you might want to go with simple water and electrolytes. You will see what works for you. I personally don't have solids when I run. Like, my stomach is very sensitive, which is why I have to use the Morton stuff, because it doesn't have, you know, it doesn't have artificial colorants, it doesn't have flavor, nothing. Like, I'm one of the blandest people when it comes to nutrition. It's just, that's what works for my stomach. Some people can go with gels, some people can go with chews, some people actually even eat a granola bar or a banana and they're fine. I have been experimenting with my nutrition, and I will do a video just about that, but I think it's important to just recognize the limitations of your own body and work with that versus what works for everybody else. So these two are hydration. This one, I usually put my phone in it, because the nutrition bit is the one that's gonna be used up most of the time. I like to have my phone in here. I did experiment with having my phone in the zip, but I found that when I run, because I run outside, I like to look at a map every now and then. I kind of know where I'm running, but sometimes I want to have a shortcut. Sometimes I need to figure out where the nearest loo is, because you sometimes need to just pee and find a toilet, public toilet. And so every now and then I just kind of want to do that, and sometimes I just go past Big Ben or something like that and I just want to snap a picture. I don't always post it on my Strava, but you know, I like to do that. So I just feel that this gives me the right access, and it doesn't actually fall off, because again, this is quite snug as I'm running. Whereas what I would have in my zip pocket is actually my keys. So my keys have quite a lot of stuff on them, and for now I'm not changing my flat or anything, so I'm still keeping all of that. They have these very big things. These are actually what we call bilgha, which is a type of Moroccan shoe, traditional shoe that we have, that is made of leather, and you walk in it like that. But anyway, so my keys are quite big, but I find that if I put them in this zippered pocket and then I close my vest, they are snug enough that they're not really jingling around. So that's something I like. So water, nutrition, phone, keys. This pocket for now I'm not using anything, and I don't need to use that. In the back, how I would use that is that if it were to be quite cold, or if there was a chance of drizzle, I would put a very, very lightweight jacket in here. And I do have one running jacket that is very lightweight, that just packs very small. Sometimes if you have a layer and you want to take it off, you could just put that layer and let it hang outside of your vest like that. So instead of tying it around your waist and having that get untied all the time, etc., you could just hang it around like that, and as you're running, it doesn't really impact your running form, because it's actually like that and it's behind your back and you're not really feeling it, right? Now, the last bit that I have in my little running vest is this little first aid kit. Now, this thing, you could put your keys, you could put whatever. I did try putting my keys on this thing, but they were jingling too much and I didn't enjoy it. So I decided, what if I just put my first aid kit? Now, I looked at first aid kits online, and I just didn't like them, and yeah, whatever. So I just have this one that I made myself. I just took a small pouch. This happens to be a pouch from Dame, which is a tampon brand, but like whatever pouch you can have. You don't need to buy one specifically. And here is what I have in my kit. Now, I do road running, so it's basically just me, and it's in the middle of civilization. If you do trail running, some races will actually require you to have a mandatory first aid kit, and everything in it is quite regulated. So what I have is, what is this? This is a little this is like an alcohol wipe to disinfect, just in case I fall somewhere and need to disinfect the area before I put a plaster on it. Then talking of plasters, I have these little plasters, so just basic ones. And then I have a lip balm, because sometimes you get so dehydrated and, you know, I just want to have one. And most important thing, Body Glide anti-chafe balm. So this is something that is very, very basic. Some people use Vaseline, some people use the Compeed one. I just think it doesn't matter what you use, but it's important to have something like this on you, because there is nothing more horrible than being 1 hour into your run or 30 minutes into your run and you have chafing and you really cannot go, not because you're tired, not because you're out of breath, not because your legs are, you know, throbbing, but simply because you have chafing. You could use it on your toes, you could use it in your thighs, you could use it in any area where you do have friction and it's going to get a bit irritating. And the thing is that as you start running, you're not always sure of where you will get that. It's just something you get with practice. And so it might be that you think you're gonna have chafing in a specific area, and then 30 minutes into your run you realize that there is something that is quite irritating. So that's why I have it. I never had to use my emergency one. I have the normal one that is in my kit, and so far I didn't use to use this one. Now, I really like this. I've used it quite a few times. I think that running with hydration and running with nutrition is a completely different experience, and I think that I am able to run a lot more comfortably now that I have the right kit. Obviously, this is not something that I went and bought on the very first week of me running. I've been running now consistently for about a month, and I feel that this is the most useful thing for me to have usually in my long run. Now, when I put it on, I always need to adjust like that a little bit. You need to also see, because of the shape of your breast and the size, you need to adjust it relatively, and then you can start running. But then it's quite comfortable for me. I really am happy with this purchase. Wasn't super expensive, was worth it. I don't think I needed to buy something that is a bit more like fancier or something like that. I think that this really works for me, and I highly recommend it. So I will leave the references for that, and you can find it in very different sports outlets depending on where you live, and they are often on sale. There are various iterations of this. But I just picked the cheapest one. But yeah, very, very happy with it. I think that it's a very important piece of kit when you start doing your long runs outside. This is the smaller flasks. It's only 250 ml, and you can see that actually the top of it is much smaller. So that's why if you fit it in here, you have to do a double loop. I bought these separately even before I had my hydration vest, simply because I thought that 250 ml would be enough for my runs. As I started running for more than an hour, that became, in the heat, that became a bit more difficult. When you have something like this, you could actually either stick it in a pocket, but you could also have something like a very basic belt like this, where you just throw it in here. I mean, this is a very inexpensive belt that I think I bought from Decathlon over 10 years ago in Morocco. Decathlon have some very good things for running that are quite affordable. They even have their own version of the soft flask, so you don't have to buy the Salomon one, and they're quite the same quality. Matter of fact, I actually was going to buy the Decathlon ones, but here in the UK they were sold out, and I waited for about a week or two to be notified of restocking. Then I gave up and I eventually bought the Salomon, and then 2 days later I was notified that they restocked. So, you know, if you really want the Decathlon ones, know that they typically go out of stock, but don't rush. But yeah, hydration vest, really good. Make sure that you only get it when you're ready for the commitment. For me, that was my one commitment. I mean, this thing, as I said, I've had it for 10 years, so it wasn't like I bought a belt and then decided that wasn't good enough. And I do feel that the belt also serves its purpose when I don't have massive hydration needs, or if I'm going to do a run and I'm somewhere like there is a small park, Regent's Park, where I know that there are a couple very nice fountains in there. I still haven't found the fountains on the Battersea Park, but plan your route, and with time, especially if you run around the same area, you should be able to plan your logistics well. But don't run dehydrated, because that's not really good for you. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.